All right. Section 1.5, solving equations by factoring. Okay, so up to this point, we've solved equations by our linear equations. Okay, so that means that we only had x's, we didn't have any x squareds. Okay, so when I say solve equations by factoring, we're going to be dealing with quadratic equations. Okay, and those are equations that can be written in standard form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a is not equal to 0. Okay? And then we can apply this thing called the zero product rule. And this says that if the product of two algebraic expressions is 0, then at least one of the factors must be 0. So this is like saying if I have a times b equals 0, then either a is 0, b is 0, or both are 0. Okay? So let's look at this, a more specific example. If x minus 4, x plus 2 equals 0, then either x minus 4 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0, or both of them equal 0, which makes sense, right? If I have two things multiplied together to equal 0, then one of them has to be equal to 0, because that's the only way that we get 0 when we multiply things, right? Is you have anything times 0 is 0. Okay, so let's look at our steps. Okay, solving equations by factoring. We're going to rewrite in standard form. Okay, go up here. The orange underline is standard form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if it's not in standard form, like if your c were on the other side, you would need to move it over and make it equal to 0. Then you're going to factor completely. So you're going to factor this side of your equal sign. Okay, and you're going to get something that looks like this. Then you're going to apply the zero product rule. That means you're going to take each set of parentheses, put them equal to 0, and then you'll solve. And you can always check to see if you're correct. Okay, so let's see what I mean by this. Okay, so this one breaks down all the steps for us, which is nice. All right, so I have x squared. This is my problem: x squared minus 3x equals 28. My first step is standard form. Okay, and this is not in standard form. Okay, I need it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. Okay, I created 0 here, right? So now I have x squared minus 3x minus 28 is equal to 0. Then I'm going to factor completely this side. Okay, so I have an easy trinomial with x and x. My signs are different, and I need the factors of 28 that add to give me -3. So that would be -7 and a +4. Now I'm going to apply the zero product rule, which means I'm going to take this set, put it equal to 0. Then I'm going to take this set and set it equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve. Okay, how they got 7 and -4 is they added 7 to both sides, and they subtracted 4 from both sides, and they solved for x. Okay, so those are the 4 steps with an example. So let's do one of our own. First step is standard form. So that means equal to 0. Well, it's already equal to 0, so we're okay. So now I need to factor the left-hand side of the equation. Well, we know that this is an easy trinomial, right? So we have x and x. Our signs are different, so we're going to have a plus and a minus. Now we need to think of the factors of 24 that are going to add to give us -2. Okay, so that's going to be a -6 and a +4. And remember that you can always check yourself, right? So we're good. Now we're going to apply the zero product rule. So that means we're going to take each set and put it equal to 0 and solve. So x plus 4 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. So we'll subtract 4 from both sides and get x equals -4. We'll add 6 to both sides, and x equals +6. So your two answers are x equals 4 and x equals 6. Okay. Now let's do this one. First is standard form. So we will need to move our 21 over, right? So we'll subtract 21 from both sides and get 2x squared minus x minus 21 equals 0. Okay, so this is a hard trinomial because of our 2 that's attached to our x squared term. Okay, so you can either do bottoms up or you can do trial and error. Okay, I'm just going to do trial and error. I have 1 and 2. And for 21, I have 1 and 21, 2 and 7. And I need these to add to give me -1. Okay, so I only have one option for these two blanks. I have to use 2 and 1. Those are the only two factors of 2. So I'm going to say 2x and x. Okay, and I need these to add to -1. So I'm not going to use 1 and 21. Okay, because that's just not going to give me -1. All right, you should be able to figure that out fairly quickly. And I should have put 3 and 7. I hope you caught that. All right, so I'm going to use 3 and 7, and I need them to add to 1. So I'm going to put my 7 here and my 3 here. Okay, when I do that, I get 7x and 6x. And I need it to add to give me -1. So if I put a negative on this guy, do you see that I would get it? So I'll put a minus here and a plus here. Now, you need to take each set of parentheses, set them equal to 0, and solve. 2x minus 7 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. Okay, so add 7 to both sides and get 2x equals 7. Divide by 2, x equals 7/2. Subtract 3, x equals -3. Okay, there are your two answers. Okay, so this one was a little bit more difficult because we had a hard trinomial. Once again, you can either do bottoms up or you can do trial and error. Either one, does not matter which one that you use. And then you need to solve both equations. Okay, this one you had one more step than you did on that one because of your 2. So you added 7 first, and that was collecting. That was your collecting step. You were collecting variables on one side, you were collecting constants on the other, and then you divided by 2 and you were creating 1 here, right? So you get x equals 7/2 and -3. All right, this one, 3x squared minus 9x equals 0. All right, so excuse me, on this one, we already have it in standard form. And you may say, okay, Ms. Kelly, where is C? Because our standard form says ax squared plus bx plus c, and I only see an a and a b. Okay, I only see x squared and a b. Well, I would say that your c is just 0. Okay, your c here is just 0. So we don't write +0 ever, right? So we are okay. And this has 2 terms, and now we need to factor it. Okay, our only 2 strategies are difference of squares and difference of a sum and difference of cubes, okay? This is neither one, right? We don't have a cube term at all. And with squares, first of all of our numbers need to be ones that we can take the square root of and get a number. We can't do that with 3, and this one's not a constant or squared, okay? So the only thing that we can do is greatest common factor. Okay, so we're going to take out the greatest common factor, which is 3x, and we're left with x minus 3 inside our parentheses, okay? And that's all we can do with factoring. Now, you still need to set each set equal to 0. That means this set needs to be set equal to 0, and this set needs to be set, okay? So it looks a little different, but we're still taking each piece and setting it equal to 0. So we get 3x equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. So we're going to solve. We're going to divide by 3. Okay, that created 1 there. So x equals 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. And then we're going to add 3. X equals 3. Okay. Those are our two numbers for letter D. So so far we've had 2 trinomials, one easy, one hard, and then greatest common factor. Now let's look at this guy, okay? We need to set him equal to 0. So we need to move 2 things over, right? We need to move 8x over, and we need to move 12 over as well, okay? So I'm just going to write minus 8x minus 12. And you're going to apply that to the other side. So we get 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals 0, okay? So now you need to factor the left-hand side of the equation. Well, you need to count 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. And you need to immediately think grouping, okay? I only gave you one strategy when it comes to 4 terms, and that is grouping. If you can't group, then you would use greatest common factor, but here we can group. So we're going to group these 2 and these 2, first 2 and the last 2. The blue, the greatest common factor of the blue is x squared, and you're left with 2x plus 3. Then you bring your minus sign down. I'm going to switch to a pink. And the greatest common factor of the pink is 4. And again, you're left with 2x minus 3 plus 3, my fault, plus 3 in the parentheses, okay? And I got plus 3 because I'm distributing a negative 4, right? So negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. And then negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12. Okay, so you just have to make sure you're distributing this 4 back through to get what's in the middle, right? Okay, so I have the same thing inside my parentheses. That's good. That's what I want. And so now I just group the rest. So I have 2x plus 3. That gives me one set of my parentheses. And then I have everything else that's outside of my parentheses in one set. Okay, so I used this and this. So all I was left with was x squared minus 4. Okay. Well, then I noticed that this guy is the difference of 2 squares, right? X squared minus 4. So I can write this as x plus 2, x minus 2 equals 0, right? All I did was notice that this is the difference of squares. Okay, so now I'm going to take each set set them equal to 0, and solve. So I have 2x plus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. And I'm going to solve. I'm going to say minus 3 on both sides and get 2x equals negative 3. Let's see if I can fit it. I'm going to divide by 2. I'll go over here and write the answer. And get x equals negative 3/2. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and get x equals negative 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. X equals positive 2. Okay, so I got negative 3/2, negative 2, and 2 as my answers. Okay, so in this one I had to group first. And then I noticed that this one I could write as the difference of squares. Okay, that was going to help me solve it. That was going to help me in this step, right? So I had easy trinomial, hard trinomial, greatest common factor, and grouping. All right, and really the only difference here in just normal factoring is that each of these are set equal to 0. Notice how I kept that with me the whole time. Okay, that's important. Keep your equal to 0 with you throughout the whole thing. And then you need to just split your parentheses up, solve both put both equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay.